Hello students, I welcome you once again for this next chapter of your science, chapter number 6, life processes. The points that we will cover in this chapter will be: first, students, we will understand the meaning of the term life processes. Then we will study 4 types of life processes which are given in detail in this chapter. These 4 life processes will be: first one, nutrition; second one will be respiration; third one will be transportation; and the last one will be excretion. These are the 4 life processes which we will be studying in detail in this chapter. Interestingly, we will be studying about them in human beings as well as in plants, meaning how does nutrition happen in human beings and how does nutrition happen in plants? How does respiration happen in human beings and how does respiration happen in plants? And how does respiration happen in some other animals as well? Then how does transportation happen in human beings and how does transportation happen in plants? And lastly, how does excretion happen in human beings and how does excretion happen in plants? So all these 4 life processes will be studied in plants and in animals. Plants, animals, plants, animals, plants, animals. So students, if you understand, the chapter is divided into 4 major parts. Okay, this is going to be the first part, this is going to be the second part, this is going to be the third part, and the fourth part. And each part will be divided into plants and animals. On that note, let us start the chapter. Students, if on this world we had to divide this world, this earth, into 2 major groups, we could divide them as things which are living on this earth and things which are non-living on this earth. This is how the entire earth can be classified. Now, how does this classification happen? किसको हम लिविंग कहते हैं और किसको हम नॉन लिविंग कहते हैं? जो लिविंग ऑर्गेनिजम्स होते हैं उनमें क्या खासियत होती है? व्हाट आर देयर कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स? सो नेक्स्ट पॉइंट इज देयर आर सर्टन एक्टिविटीज which take place only in living beings. Some activities which are common to all living beings. Such activities are called as life processes. For example, eating, food requirement. Food requirement is there in you, food requirement is there in me. A dog also needs food, a cat also needs food, a donkey also needs food, a banyan tree also needs food, a rat also needs food, a frog also needs food, a fish also needs food. They all need food. Okay, even amoeba needs food, even bacteria need food. Okay, so this activity of obtaining food is there in all living organisms. Similarly, reproduction. Okay, similarly, respiration. Similarly, transportation. These activities are there only in living things. They are not there in non-living things. If there is an aircon, there is an air conditioner in your room, does that air conditioner need food? Does it require breathing? Okay, does it have blood in it? Or does it remove waste products? No. So these activities which happen in all living beings only, these activities are called as life processes. So how do we differentiate living organisms from non-living organisms? Living organisms are called as living because there are some activities which happen only in them. Okay? And these activities are called as life processes. And now we are going to understand some life processes in detail in this particular chapter. Some of the life processes which happen in all living organisms are nutrition, respiration, transportation, excretion, reproduction, and lastly, sensitivity and growth. These are the life processes, major life processes which happen in all living organisms. They happen in plants, they happen in amoeba, they happen in dogs, cats, humans, everyone. Out of which the four major for this particular chapter are nutrition, respiration, transportation and excretion. And we will start with the first one, that is nutrition. Okay, so students, let us understand the meaning of the word nutrition. Okay, the word nutrition comes from the word nutrients. Okay, and where do nutrients come from? Nutrients are present in food. What nutrients are present in food? The nutrients which are present in food are the 5 nutrients which we have been studying from lower standards. First one, carbohydrates. Second one, proteins. Third one, fats. Fourth one, vitamins. And last one, minerals. Minerals are also called as salts. So these are the 5 major nutrients which we get from food. So every time we are taking food, we are actually taking nutrients. And what are we doing with it? We are taking it inside. Okay, so we take nutrients inside, and our body cells use the nutrients. The food that we eat, all the cells of my body use this food. They use the nutrients, they use the carbohydrates, they use the proteins, they use the fats. Okay, so the second thing that we do with nutrients is we utilize them. These are the 2 things that we do with nutrients. We take nutrients inside and then we utilize them. And therefore, how do we define nutrition? It is a process of intake of nutrients and its utilization by an organism is called nutrition. So what is nutrition? It's a process. Process meaning it is some work. It is an activity. Students, remember this word process. Okay, 70% of your definitions in biology start from this word. Okay, it's a process. Nutrition is a process. When I teach you respiration, it is also a process. So all definitions will start like this. It is a clue that you must remember. It is a process of intake of nutrients. That's what I told you. Take inside of nutrients, and its utilization, meaning use them. Who uses them? Does a non-living thing use nutrients? No, living thing uses nutrients, and therefore the third part of the definition is by an organism is called as nutrition. So you can pause your screens and remember this definition of nutrition. Now we go further ahead to understand types of nutrition. Okay, now tell me students, do all living organisms have the same way of eating food? No. You look at a giraffe. A giraffe tries to directly eat the leaves from the tree. Okay, you look at human beings, we take a plate and then we eat our food from the plate. Okay, you look at fungi. Okay, fungi like to stay on decaying matter. सड़ी हुई चीज़ों से उनको अपना खाना मिलता है. Okay, you look at a lice, जिसे हम जू कहते हैं. How does it obtain food? It stays in the hair of another living organism. दूसरे इंसान के बालों में रह के वो अपना खून चूसता है, उनका खून चूसता है और अपना खाना obtain करता है. Okay, do we do like that? Do we sit on someone else's body and obtain food? No, we don't do like that. So what am I trying to tell you? Different living organisms have got different ways of obtaining food. Okay, like just take the example of the great plants. Plants prepare their own food. Okay, so we conclude that different living organisms have got different methods of obtaining food, and that brings us to this topic, that is types of nutrition, or in difficult words we call it modes of nutrition. Modes of nutrition can be basically divided into two major categories, and the two major categories are A, autotrophic nutrition, and B, heterotrophic nutrition. What do you mean by the word auto? Auto meaning self. Those living organisms which prepare their own food. And hetero, what does the word hetero mean? The word hetero means different. So they are those living organisms which depend on different sources. अपना खाना खुद नहीं बना सकते, इसीलिए अलग अलग जगह से अपना खाना ऑब्टेन करते हैं, अपना खाना प्राप्त करते हैं. Okay, like look at dogs, look at human beings, look at mosquito, look at a lice, look at a donkey, look at a fungi. They obtain food from outside different outer sources. Okay, so they are living organisms which depend on others for their food. So these are the two major categories, autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. We must know examples of autotrophic nutrition: plants. Examples of heterotrophic nutrition: all animals. I am going to give you two examples which are given in your curriculum, in your portion. Example, amoeba, a unicellular organism. And the second example of heterotrophic mode of nutrition is the great you and me, which means humans. Now, how does the chapter go further ahead? We will first study autotrophic nutrition with the help of plants first. Then we will study heterotrophic nutrition first in amoeba in very short, And then the third part is we will study heterotrophic nutrition in human beings. So this is how the chapter goes further ahead: nutrition in plants, then nutrition in amoeba, and then nutrition in human beings. Students, because it is a big chapter, it is very important that you understand the map of the chapter. Chapter आगे कैसे बढ़ रहा है वो समझना बहुत ज़रूरी है, otherwise you will get lost in the entire chapter. If you know the map of the chapter, you can remember the entire chapter by heart. That is what our aim is. Okay, so on that note, let me start with nutrition in plants. Point number one, you know, is that plants prepare their own food in the presence of sunlight. Because they prepare their food with the help of sunlight, therefore, this process is called as photosynthesis. What do you mean by the word photosynthesis? Students, try to break it. The word photo means light, and the word synthesis means prepare. So they prepare their food in the presence of sunlight. Now understand. See, when our mother prepares food in the kitchen, okay, for example, say when she prepares pav bhaji, or for example when she prepares a pizza or a sandwich, okay, you know our mother is making the food in the house, the sandwich in the house. But if there is no bread, if there are no vegetables, if there is no sauce, if there is no chutney, will she be able to make a sandwich? No. So before she makes a sandwich for you for dinner or for lunch, she needs bread. She needs all the vegetables. She needs tomatoes, she needs potatoes, she needs onion, she needs cheese, she needs sauce. So all these things first your mother has to gather, and only then she can make your sandwich. So all these things which your mother requires to make your sandwich, these things in English are termed as raw materials. Okay, so now plants prepare their own food, अपना खाना खुद बनाते हैं, very good. But don't you think in order to prepare their own food, they will also require some raw materials? Exactly. So now let us understand what are the raw materials which plants need to make their food. Just to make how to make sandwich, your mother requires vegetables, bread, chutney, butter, cheese, etc. Similarly, plants, for preparing their food, they need some raw materials. Let us now understand the raw materials required in photosynthesis. Students, there are 4 major raw materials which are required for photosynthesis. The first one is sunlight. The second one is water. The third one is carbon dioxide, also called as CO2. And the fourth one is chlorophyll. These are the four major raw materials which plants need to prepare their own food. Okay, you can pause your screens and remember this by heart. Okay, now I'll just give you a clue to remember this. Okay, four, because biology में बहुत सारे terms याद रखने होते हैं, so it is always good to keep having some clues. Out of these four raw materials, एक raw material ऐसा है जो हमेशा बाहर होता है, हमेशा बाहर. कौन सा raw material हमेशा बाहर होता है? सनलाइट, ऑलवेज आउटसाइड. अभी याद रखेंगे, एक रॉ मटेरियल ऐसा होता है जो हमेशा प्लांट के अंदर होता है, ऑलवेज देयर. वो कौन सा होता है? क्लोरोफिल. तो दो हो गए, हमेशा बाहर सनलाइट, हमेशा अंदर क्लोरोफिल. टू डन. नाउ एक रॉ मटेरियल ऐसा होता है जो ऊपर से अंदर आता है, बाहर होता है लेकिन बाहर से अंदर आता है, ऊपर से अंदर आता है. कौन है जो ऊपर से अंदर आता है? एटमॉस्फेयर में से कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड ऊपर से अंदर आता है, प्लांट्स के अंदर आता है. ओके, एंड नाउ एक रॉ मटेरियल ऐसा होता है जो नीचे से अंदर आता है. तो नीचे से अंदर आने वाला कौन सा रॉ मटेरियल है? वाटर. तो स्टूडेंट्स, फोर रॉ मटेरियल्स ऐसे याद रखेंगे. दिस इज हाउ यू विल रिमेंबर. ऑलवेज आउटसाइड सनलाइट, ऑलवेज इनसाइड क्लोरोफिल, coming inside from above carbon dioxide, and coming inside from below is water. This is how we can remember the four raw materials. So now we know what raw materials are required to prepare food. Okay, now let us come back. Okay, so in order to make your sandwich, okay, we again come back to the sandwich story. In order to make your sandwich, your mom brings all the raw materials from the market. And where does she prepare the sandwich? Most of the time she prepares the sandwich in the kitchen. तो भी plants में kitchen कहाँ पे है? Where is the kitchen where they prepare their own food? And that brings me to a very important part of the plant, that is leaf, which is the site for photosynthesis. ये लीफ जो होते हैं, ये प्लांट का किचन है, यहां पे खाना बनता है. ओके, सो नाउ वी अंडरस्टैंड हाउ डू द रॉ मटीरियल्स रीच द किचन. ओके, सो हियर वी स्टार्ट. द फर्स्ट रॉ मटीरियल, which is sun. What does sun give? Sun gives sun rays. So when the sun gives its sun rays, it is called as radiant energy, क्योंकि वो rays के फॉर्म में है. So this radiant energy is always falling on the plant in the daytime. Okay, तो first raw material हमेशा लीफ के ऊपर गिर रहा है डे टाइम में. The second raw material is carbon dioxide, which is present in the atmosphere. I am writing short form ATM. Okay, it enters the leaf, because you know the leaf has got small openings, and these small openings which are present in the leaf. Okay, I'm just trying to show one opening like this over here. We have done this in lower standards. These openings are called as stomata. Okay, we go on to the third raw material. The third raw material is water, which is present where? In the soil. From the soil, the water enters the roots. From the roots, it enters the stem. From the stem, it enters the leaves. Okay, and this is how the water also reaches here. So CO2 has reached, and then the water reaches here in the leaf. The sun rays are always falling. 3 down. Okay, sun rays coming, CO2 has entered, H2 has entered. Which is the fourth one? Chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is always present inside. So the fourth raw material, chlorophyll, is present in the cells of the leaf, in those pouches, in those special cell organelles which you have studied in lower standards, which are called as chloroplast. So now if you look at this picture, you know how all the 4 raw materials have entered the kitchen, have entered the leaf. Okay, and now on the next side of the flip chart, I will teach you how do they all work together and prepare the food for the plant. Okay, so you can pause your screens and just make a note of this particular chart, and then we take it ahead. Now, we go on to the process of photosynthesis. Leaf, sun giving out the radiant energy, chlorophyll is always inside, CO2 is present in the atmosphere, which enter inside through stomata, which are present on the surface of the leaf. Water is present in the soil, which enters inside through the roots, through the stem, and enters the leaves. Now, please give your best for the next few minutes, because I am going to explain you the steps of photosynthesis. Now, what happens? Because of chlorophyll, which is present in the leaf, the radiant energy of the sun is absorbed. See, you and me, if we stand in the sunlight, we are not able to absorb the radiant energy of the sun. Only plants are able to absorb it. Why are plants able to absorb it? Because of chlorophyll. So the importance of this raw material is that it is able to trap the radiant energy. As a result, the radiant energy now falls on the leaf and it gets absorbed. Now what happens next? Because of the radiant energy falling on the leaf, the water molecule splits. So that's an important step. Okay, so step number 1, water molecule splits. What is the molecular formula of water? H2O. So when the water molecule splits, it breaks into hydrogen and oxygen, as simple as that. And now this oxygen leaves the leaf again through the stomata, and this oxygen goes back to the atmosphere. Everywhere it goes back into the atmosphere. Are you getting this? So you know, we have been saying from first standard, second standard, that plants are great. They take in carbon dioxide and they give out oxygen. How do they give out oxygen? Today we understand how do plants give out oxygen. Okay, because when the water molecule breaks, it breaks into hydrogen and oxygen. Because of radiant energy, it breaks into hydrogen and oxygen, and this oxygen comes out back in the atmosphere as molecular oxygen. And now, a very important point to understand, when the water molecule breaks, something very important happens, and that is a lot of energy is released. Okay, so water molecule splits, as a result oxygen released, and a lot of energy is also produced, and this energy is in the form of ATP. You have studied ATP in your lower standards. I am still writing the full form of ATP over here. ATP means adenosine triphosphate, ATP. Now the moment this happens, we go further ahead. So now what has happened in the leaf? Oxygen is gone. Okay, so I can just put a small cross over here. hydrogen is there in the leaf, carbon dioxide is there in the leaf, and one more thing is there in the leaf. Can you think what is the third thing? The third thing is ATP. वाटर मॉलिक्यूल जब ब्रेक हुआ तो एनर्जी रिलीज हुआ ना, तो वो एनर्जी भी अभी इधर है. सो नाउ ऑन द नेक्स्ट स्टेप विच इज कॉल्ड एज स्टेप नंबर 2, hydrogen which is left, I'm coming out of the leaf, it reacts with carbon dioxide and it uses the energy. So I can put it as ATP used, and it gives us a very important substance which is called as C6H12O6, and this is nothing but glucose, which is nothing but a type of carbohydrate, which is nothing but the food prepared by plants. So I hope now we understand how photosynthesis exactly happens. So if you have to summarize, step number 2 is carbon dioxide reacts with hydrogen. Okay, in chemistry, whenever a chemical reaction happens with oxygen, it is called as oxidation reaction. And whenever a chemical reaction happens with hydrogen, it is called as a reduction reaction. So carbon dioxide reacts with hydrogen, which means carbon dioxide is reduced to what is called as glucose. So students, this is how actually photosynthesis happens, and these are the 2 steps of photosynthesis. I want you to just pause your screens and understand what I have told you. Okay, I know this reaction is not balanced right now. I will give you a balanced reaction on the next side of the flip chart. Okay, so now we go further ahead and understand in summary